Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing the K&N Series 77 cold air intake available for the 19 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500. You should be checking this out for your own Ram if you're looking for an intake to replace your factory airbox in order to give you a small bump in horsepower and torque, a better breathing and ultimately performing engine, along with a better throttle response and acceleration, all from a kit that offers a high efficiency, high quality oiled filter. Now, K&N is obviously a staple in the cold air intake community. They've been around for decades, making some of the best filters in the category, and that's not going to be any different here. K&N's made this kit to pick up around 15 to 16 horsepower, along with what they claim to be around 34 pound-feet of torque for your 5.7. Now, this is a no tune required intake, meaning you don't have to pick up a custom tune in order to make it work under the hood for your 5.7. And with that said, we're not strapping it onto the dyno today to do any dyno testing, but do know that this kit is easily bolted up right out of the box. Now, this one here is going to feature that high efficiency, much larger conical filter. This is a cotton gauze filter media, an oiled filter, as opposed to a dry option out there in the category, which is far superior than your factory drop-in paper element filter, which we'll take a closer look at later in the video. Know that this guy here, being an oiled filter, does require some routine maintenance, but I will say K&N's letting us know that you won't have to do any maintenance to this oiled filter for upwards of 100,000 normal highway driving miles. Now, if you guys are located there in places like Arizona or Utah, seeing a little bit more debris in the air, that maintenance may be a little bit more often, so you just want to keep an eye on it as time goes on. Now, looking at this guy here, it's going to help filter out all the particles you don't want getting into your engine bay, while also pulling in as much cold air necessary to pick up nice power and help your engine breathe a lot better than it would with your factory filter. Now, this tubing here is an aluminum tubing, which means that it's going to help dissipate heat a little bit better. It's also got a polished finish on top of it to make it look nice and shiny under the hood. Great for guys looking to maybe put together a show truck, taking it out to car shows. You're also going to have silicone couplers here to help make sure that there's no leaks. It's all leak-free finish here, along with the billet aluminum housing. This airbox here from K&N is going to help block out all of the unnecessary engine bay heat that you don't want soaking up into the filter. It's going to keep all the cold air coming in and block out that hot engine bay heat. It's also got this weather stripping here that'll install right to the top section of your heat shield to help block out the engine bay heat. Once your hood shuts, it'll meet that seal under the hood to help keep that out. With all of this in mind here, this is going to come in right under the $400 mark. K&N does make some premium quality stuff, so the price tag is a little bit higher than some of the entry-level things out there, but do know that you're getting a really superior filter. That's really the key element to this cold air intake package. Keep in mind there are some of the other options out there, maybe even a little bit more expensive than this, that have a completely sealed airbox, whereas this one's a little bit more open. The sealed airboxes are ideal for keeping out all of that engine bay heat, but this guy here is definitely going to do wonders over your factory airbox. Now, the install is going to get 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Cold air intakes are one of the easiest things you can do under the hood. No drilling, no modification, and like I said earlier, no ECU reflash required, so no tune, making it a 1-hour install from start to finish. I'm going to walk you through the whole process here. Very simple hand tools required. What do you say we get started? All right, tools using this install include an impact gun or a ratchet, extension, 8mm swivel and deep sockets recommended, 5/32 hex socket or Allen key, and some wire cutters. All right, first step here, we're gonna grab an 8mm socket. I'm actually gonna use a swivel socket. We're gonna head over here to the end of our tubing that connects to the throttle body and loosen up this clamp. You can also use a flathead screwdriver as well. All right, next up, we're gonna disconnect the air intake temperature sensor right here. It's a gray clip. You're just gonna pinch and disconnect that. Next to that is your breather hose. Now for this, there's a little gray tab at the bottom. You're gonna push up on that as you pull down to disconnect it, just like that. All right, next step, we're just gonna lift up on the tubing to disconnect it from the throttle body. The air intake box is just held on by a couple of little rubber clips here. You just pull straight up on that and it disconnects, and now we can set this assembly aside. All right, so we got our factory airbox off of our 19 Ram behind me, and it's on the table next to our K&N Series 77. I want to take you through some similarities and differences between the two kits, and I first and foremost want to start with our filter, the star player of the kit. Now with your K&N, you're picking up the large conical oiled filter made of a cotton gauze. Your factory filter, I actually took out of the stock airbox here to show you guys this flat drop-in paper element dry filter. Now that dry filter here from the factory is very common for manufacturers like Dodge, Ford, and Chevy. They use what is a very generic, very basic drop-in dry filter that's going to do a pretty good job of filtering out all the particles you don't want making its way into your engine, but it's not really optimized for the best cold air intake. This guy from K&N is going to do a far and away better job of filtering and pulling in cold air. That cotton gauze media used in the oiled filter you see here is a little bit more opened up when compared to the dry paper element filter. A more open and free-flowing filter element is going to help pull in a lot more cold air, translating to a better performing engine. Now when it comes to oiled versus dry, that's an endless debate that happens in the category, and it ultimately comes down to what you're looking for in particular out of an air filter. Now the K&N oiled filter is great. It's really a best of both worlds type of situation. Oiled filters catch a lot of the incoming particles down to really small microns thanks to that tacky oil used in the filter media. The opened up cotton gauze media allows for a really good amount of airflow. So like I said, best of both worlds. Oiled filters do have their downsides, however. It does require a little bit more maintenance than a dry filter. Not only are you washing it and reusing it, but you also have to re-oil it when it comes time for that routine maintenance. Now granted, K&N lets us know you can wait up to 100,000 miles depending on your use, how you're using your truck, your climate area, where you're located, things like that. But nonetheless, a little bit more of maintenance heavy when it comes to oiled filters. Dry filters, on the other hand, are a little bit easier to use. You just pressure wash them and throw them right back in. They may not last as long as oiled filters, but they do a great job filtering things out, especially when it comes to dry climate areas, which would otherwise clog up an oiled filter a lot faster. Dry filters can be a little bit superior there. So it's a bit of a trade-off. It's whatever you're looking for. Oiled filters are typically the best of both worlds type of situation. Now when it comes to the rest of the tubing here, your factory intake is a plastic tubing, which is pretty decent for heat dissipation. It's got this flex tube here, which can be a bit restrictive. Your new K&N option is that aluminum tubing. This aluminum tubing is good for heat dissipation. It's also a little bit bigger in diameter, meaning you're gonna get a little bit more volume of airflow, which can translate to a big horsepower and torque gain over your factory intake. Now, it's not gonna be too big that you would need an ECU tune. Sometimes when you're getting too much airflow coming in, you gotta reflash for that. Not the case here since it's a no tune required. The airbox, as you can see, is very different than your factory option. This is a closed airbox from the factory holding in that drop-in filter. This here is gonna drop into the bottom tray that this mounted to, and your filter would go right inside of that, and this weather stripping will line the top there, which I talked about earlier on. At this point, guys, we are gonna have to transfer over our factory air intake temperature sensor over to our new housing, and then we'll get to the install. All right, so looking at our temperature sensor here, all you're really gonna have to do is twist it counterclockwise, give it a little wiggle, and it'll pull straight out. We're gonna set our factory tubing aside now. All right, so at this point, grab the grommet included in the kit, and you're gonna line this up into the open hole on the side of your new intake. Take that temperature sensor, and you're gonna insert that right in here. When you line that up, you want to make sure it's facing the same direction it was when it was installed on the vehicle. So if the intake tubing goes like this, we know we want our connector on the side there, facing the driver's side of the vehicle, just like that. All right, so now we want to twist on our hose fitting. Now this is a threaded hose fitting, it's plastic. It's going to go into the welded on thread on the side of our tubing. I'm just going to thread this guy on, just making sure we don't strip this guy out either. Once it starts getting hand tight, you just want to make sure it's facing the same direction as your temperature sensor facing toward the driver's side. All right, next up we're going to install our rubber coupler. Now we're going to install this on the side going toward our throttle body. Just going to slide this guy on. It's got the tapered end that gets a little bit smaller on the outlet there. All right, so once you have that in place, put a clamp in position on the tubing side, grab an 8mm socket or a flathead and tighten it down. All right, so now we're basically gonna do the same thing on the other end, except you wanna put the clamp on first. This guy looks just a little bit different. It's got the bubble in the middle there, and that's really where you want the end of the tubing to line up to, so it lines up right in the middle, and then tighten down that clamp. All right, so now we can take that velocity stack style mount and we're gonna put it on the inside of our airbox. Now you're gonna rotate this so that the open threaded holes line up together. Take the hex screw, the split washer and the flat washer, and you're gonna tighten it down from the outside. I'm just gonna get those hand tight for now, and then we're gonna grab our hex socket and tighten them down for good. All right, I'm gonna use a 5/32 hex socket. You can also use an Allen key and just tighten these down. All right, so at this point we have our factory grommets off of our stock heat shield or air box. What we're gonna do is snap them onto our new heat shield from K&N. You just wanna make sure you're going upside down from the bottom up and snapping these guys into place. It's gonna help hold it in place under the hood. All right, with this last guy in place, we're ready to drop it in. All right, so now you can take your heat shield and drop it onto those little pegs right into the rubber grommets we just installed. All right, you want to make sure the front ones are getting clipped on as well, and that fell off, so let's try that one again. You just want to make sure the front ones are getting clipped on as well. Boom, perfect. All right, next we're going to grab our filter and install it right onto that velocity stack we installed with the hex screws. You want to make sure that the clamp is facing up. Grab your socket and tighten that clamp down. All right, next grab that weather stripping and we're going to line the top edge of that heat shield or air box all the way around the edges so that way we can trap in the cold air and keep out the engine bay heat. All right, so once you get to the end, we can cut off the excess there. All right, for this, I'm just gonna use a set of wire cutters. All right, next up is our tubing. You wanna make sure you have a clamp on both ends. We're gonna install that into the opposite side of our air box and then line it up to our throttle body. Once you have that seated on both sides, make sure the clamps are in position and tighten them down. I'm gonna start up here and then switch over to my swivel socket for this side. All right, we're switching over to my swivel socket and we're gonna tighten this guy down. All right, the last couple of steps here, we're just gonna re-plug in our temperature sensor. All right, and then finally top it off with your breather hose. And there you have it, good to go. That's gonna wrap up my review and install for the K&N Series 77 cold air intake for the 19 and newer 5.7 Ram 1500. If you're looking for this guy here, you can pick it up at AmericanTrucks.com.